Hello guys, I'm John, I'm the Geeky Fanboy, and welcome back to Mr. Robot, Season 4. We're at episode 6 now, almost halfway through the season, and this week's episode is very intense and very, very heavy, so let's talk about it. Okay, as always, the first couple of minutes are gonna be spoiler free, but don't worry, I'm gonna give you a warning before I jump into details for the episode. So yeah, let's talk for a couple of minutes. So yeah, like I said, the episode this week is very intense, very heavy. So not necessarily heavy in the sense of plot, but in the sense of what kind of issues and what kind of character moments we have in this, especially regarding what Elliot is doing. I'm going to talk about Elliot a bit more in detail in the spoiler part, but you know, this week's episode, it's quite hard to really like Elliot in this episode. Like, he does some very, very questionable things, and he has moments where, honestly, I was thinking, I cannot really support this. Like, I like him, I love this man, but what he's doing right now is fucked up. Like, he's usually sort of like an anti-hero. Like, he's not your typical hero protagonist you usually have in shows. But in this episode, he's cold, calculating. He's a downright bastard in this episode. And there were several moments where I thought, you cannot do this. So yeah, in that regard, it was very, very, very interesting to see how Elliot is now trying to deal with, you know, setting up the meeting for the Deus group and trying to catch them and the Cypress Bank and all that. We see him mostly talking to Olivia in this episode, so the woman he met 2 weeks ago or something, I think, in that episode. Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. Darlene is meeting up with Dom again. Quite a lot of intense stuff happening there as well. I got goosebumps during their scenes that were very, very intense, very thrilling. With quite a shocking and interesting ending there to their storyline. And we have a lot of Vera in this episode as well, who's finally talking to Krista in very weird, very threatening, very intimidating ways, and the entire time I thought, shut up, I do not want you in this, I don't know how to feel about you, you frighten me. And once again, the ending to this episode is not necessarily what the fuck, but again, you're just sitting there at the end being like, what the hell is going to happen next week? So, yeah. A lot of stuff going on this emotionally and also plot-wise. So, a very good episode, and also, I don't even really want to compare to last week's episode because last week's episode was so special and different in what it did. But you're definitely going to enjoy this week's episode as well, especially if you like those more like heavy and character-heavy stories or episodes that focus on emotions. Okay, yeah, so that's it for the spoiler-free part. I'm going to jump into spoilers for the episode, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, turn the video off now. Okay, so let's go through this episode bit by bit, and by this I mean I'm gonna focus mostly on characters because that's a bit easier to do. So let's start with the most irritating, not necessarily, but the part that interested me the least, the part about Vera and Krista. And I was saying least interesting because I still don't know how I'm supposed to feel about Vera and his storyline in this season. I keep mentioning that I'm worried that his storyline is not really going to tie into anything that's actually going on in this season, that he's sort of just there as a secondary villain, so we have something else to worry about besides the main storyline. And it still seems like this is what they're doing. Like, his plan to me isn't quite clear. Like, he said at first that he needs Elliot, he wants to have him to help him build his kingdom, but now he says, okay, I want to just destroy him in order to use him, and I'm like, are you going to hurt him? Are you going to kill him? Are you going to use him? I don't know, probably a mixture of all those things. Like, I don't know. But nevertheless, Vera is fucking scary. Like, during all this talk, I was sitting there being really tense and getting goosebumps. I was like, oh no, what is he going to do? And, I can't really blame Krista for eventually giving up Elliot's DID condition. Like, I was thinking this is probably what he's going on about because he already knows about the depression, insomnia, and social anxiety and all that. So, yeah, he now knows about Elliot's DID, or at least one of his personalities, since we don't know if there are actually more. He knows about Mr. Robot, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how he wants to use this. That maybe he will try to talk to Mr. Robot instead of Elliot because he thinks Mr. Robot might help him, or I don't know. I just don't know. And I'm still interested enough to see what Vera will be up to, especially now since at the end of this episode, he kidnaps Elliot. Like, I was 100% sure that was going to happen the moment Krista decided to give him up, and then you see Elliot answering the phone and it's Krista. I thought, that's a trap. That's totally a trap. And yeah, it is. Elliot gets kidnapped, gets thrown into a car, they drive off, episode ends, and so I guess next week we'll see Vera finally talking to Elliot, and maybe we'll finally get some more details as to what he actually wants from him, what he needs, what his fucking plan is, because I don't understand this man. And it's also probably going to be a bit difficult for Elliot, not just because he gets kidnapped by the man who killed his girlfriend, but, they're setting up the meeting for the Deus Group, which is happening that day. The episode is set, and it's supposed to happen in the evening, but now he gets kidnapped, so I hope he gets out of that kidnapping situation by the time the Deus Group is supposed to meet up. We'll see. I just hope my boy will not get hurt. Speaking of Deus Group, I think I should mention that because it also shortly gets addressed via White Rose and her new assistant. They're setting up this meeting, and White Rose doesn't really want to get rid of Elliot. Like, it seems like they want to use him in some way. They want to, like, persuade him to come over to the dark side, that sort of thing. And I actually thought that this is quite interesting because I could see Elliot maybe considering this, depending on what the Deus Group and White Rose are actually going to tell him. But I think that's going to be quite an interesting little battle to see if Elliot might be persuaded to actually join them, although they probably have some sort of, or they will make him where Elliot has to think about something. So yeah, we'll see what happens in that meeting. I hope we get to see the meeting next week, like in that episode, but yeah, I'm very, very curious as to see what is going to happen at that Deus Group meeting. Okay, let's talk about the second storyline we see in this episode, namely Darlene and Dom. And damn, that storyline was intense. I got so many goosebumps watching their scenes because I thought, okay, they still kind of sort of like each other, but also Dom's family is being threatened by the Dark Army, and she kind of has to do what they say, otherwise people die, and it will be very, very, very bad, but Darlene's also not going to give up Elliot, so what the hell is going to happen? So, yeah, the moment Dom shows up, you hear the gun, I'm like, oh no, shit's gonna go down. And yeah, we see them at, I think, is it Darlene's flat? I'm not even sure, yeah. At her flat, and yeah, like zip ties and everything, she can't move. And they talk, and you can see how tense both of them are and how much this is getting to them. And I like that you still sort of feel that there is still something between them, that it didn't mean nothing to either of them. Like, Darlene says it later that she thought that the night they spent together was rather nice to her, and we see that in Dom, when in that moment where she thinks that she has to shoot Darlene, she eventually decides not to, or she doesn't. But yeah, that moment was very intense. Like, even when she gets the call already, I thought, oh no, creepy taxidermy woman, Dark Army, not good. And that actress who plays Dom, I'm sorry, I don't know her name. She's very good, and she's very good at playing this feeling of being on edge, being tense, being scared this entire time. She's very good at that. And when she drags Darlene into the bathroom, I got goosebumps during that scene when they start discussing if she should shoot her or not, who she's doing this for her family and all that. That was so intense. Like, I was at the edge of my seat, honestly thinking, oh shit, is Darlene actually going to die? Like, because with Mr. Robot, you're never quite sure, you know. I like to think, well, they can't kill Darlene off, or at least not yet. But then, they still sometimes have those moments where they do it anyway, and then I think, oh, holy shit, they did that. So yeah, during those scenes, I actually thought for a couple of seconds, oh, that's gonna happen. But no, like, Dom knocks Darlene out in the bathtub, and she sits there for like an hour or something, and shortly before the Dark Army weird taxidermy lady, I know she has a name, but I like calling her weird taxidermy lady, before she arrives, a couple of minutes before that, Dom and Darlene have like a little conversation after Darlene wakes up, like why they're doing this, what the Dark Army is doing, and that Darlene's obviously not gonna give up Elliot and all that. And you know, it's hard to like agree with someone on this, because you know, Darlene does not want to give up her brother, who is the protagonist of our show, so you're like, yeah, I don't want anything to happen to Elliot, but then you're also like, I like Dom, and you know, you don't want her family to die, so there is a bit of a dilemma here. So yeah, they're trying to figure out something, what they could do, and when they're standing in the corridor, and Dom says, you have to shoot me, just do it. Oh, that hit home, like that was, intense when she says that she's been thinking about doing it for the past 2 months, but she just can't do it. You know, that just really hits home how bad she's been feeling, not only recently, but basically her entire time, ever since we've known her, and how much this whole Dark Army business is getting to her. Like, it's not good. And he's standing in the corridor, and I actually thought Darlene is gonna maybe like sort of accidentally pull the trigger and shoot Dom, but you know, in the second that might happen, the door opens and the Dark Army arrives. Weird taxidermy lady with 2 other guys. And I literally sat there going like, shit. Because, you know, that was not supposed to happen. So, yeah, they're there, and she's about to shoot Darlene, and Darlene, in a masterful move I'm so thankful for, she says, I just wiped my phone, and she did. You see the screen, all the data's gone, and weird taxidermy lady just goes, huh, okay. So, I'm gonna assume they let Darlene live. I'm not so sure about Dominique's family, because, you know, she was supposed to kill Darlene, and she didn't. And, you know, the Dark Army, and especially weird taxidermy lady, always finds a way to, like, twist her actions and her words to hurt someone she likes. And I don't want Dominique to get hurt even more, because she's been through so much shit already. Like, give that woman a break. So, I don't know what's going to happen to her. I hope the Dark Army won't kill either of them. So something might happen to her family. If something does happen to Dominique's family, I hope she kind of gets through it. I don't know. I would like to see her and Darlene kind of working through their issues, maybe getting together, sort of, kind of, at some point. If both of them survive, you know, I hope so, but this is Mr. Robot, and someone's probably gonna die. And yeah. So yeah, Dark Army, weird taxidermy lady continue to freak me out. I'm assuming Darlene and also Dom are now in custody of the Dark Army, so we'll see what they do with them. I'm very worried, but I'm also sort of kind of excited because I want to know what's happening. Okay, and last, but by no means least, let's talk about my boy, Elliot. And oh dear, where do I even begin? I already mentioned in my spoiler-free part that, you know, it's getting kind of rough with Elliot in this week's episode. So, yeah, he decides that he needs to contact Olivia again, so the woman he sort of had a connection with in a previous episode. But I should mention before he does that, he meets up with Leon, and he gives him something. They have a short conversation. I thought, oh, how nice. But then the conversation's over after only like 1 minute. And I thought, bit weird. We'll see if that leads to anything. But yeah, so Elliot decides to buy 2 cups of coffee, and I thought, why the hell are you buying 2 cups of coffee? But yeah, then he turns up at Olivia's place, and she actually seems to be quite happy to see him. Like, she smiles, and she maybe kind of has a bit of a crush on him, and I thought, oh, that's so adorable. And, he's sort of kind of trying to not necessarily flirt, but be nice and sociable. And I thought, oh, he's trying to be nice and cute in order to manipulate her. It's kind of adorable, I guess. Yeah, he gives her the coffee, goes into her flat, and he becomes quite serious and says that he has to tell her something or ask her something. And she actually takes his hand, and for a second I thought, aww. But that's not about to lead to anything, because then Elliot opens his mouth and directly asks her about the whole Cyprus Bank, Dark Army, Deus Group meeting stuff. Like, puts it all out there directly. And Olivia is, very understandably, confused and upset by this. And this is where Elliot begins to be kind of an asshole in this episode. So, at first he's kind of trying to be nice and polite and be like, I can stop them, you just have to help me, just do this one thing, and then I'm out of your life. And, he's still trying to be sort of reasonable, but obviously Olivia is like, oh, fuck you screwed me over, like, just go away. And yeah, that's when Elliot decides to get personal, and since he's hacked her, he knows all about her, like, custody case or whatever that was, and then she has drug problems and all that. And he asks her about what if she fails, like, a drug test, and she says she's been clean for I don't know how many years. And then he says, no, you aren't. And it cuts to the cup of coffee, and I thought, no, you didn't. I know you're desperate, but you did you? And apparently he did. The entire time I thought, oh, he's probably gonna reveal at some point that he didn't actually put drugs into her coffee, but he didn't say so I'm assuming he actually did that. Which, is the first kind of moment where you're like, okay, he did that. Not necessarily good. And, Olivia freaks out about it. And like she tells him, you know how bad this is for me. And I love how she calls him out on this, because I'm pretty sure he also kind of admits he didn't think about that. She says, you just given drugs to an addict. You know what this means. And he just tries to put it off. He's like, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna get through it. And she's like, no. It doesn't work like this for me. Maybe it works like this for you when you try drugs again after a certain amount of time, but it's not like this for me. This is the end for me. And that really hit home, and I like how much she's telling Elliot what he's doing wrong, and you're sort of on her side on this. Like, the entire time I thought, yeah, that was a dig move, that wasn't good. And like he says, okay, maybe I should have thought about this a bit more. Yeah, you should have, and you should kind of know better, And it gets even worse when he's... Yeah, I think you could kind of call it victim blaming, when he's sort of victim blaming her, when he's like, you're just not thinking about how important this is, and you're not realizing the kind of people you're working for. And, like he even says to Mr. Robot, she's in denial about the people she's working for, and she doesn't want to admit it, and blah, 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 blah. And I thought, wow, victim blaming much, Elliot? Like, come on. It's sort of understandable why she works for these people. They're threatening, they're not nice, they're dangerous. And, it's just her job. She tries to make a living of it. She's probably trying to keep people safe. And, yeah, like, it was really hard rooting for Elliot in this. Like they're talking about throughout the episode, especially at the beginning, that they're about to cross a line that they never wanted to cross. And you do see that in this episode, how absolutely brutal and cold and calculating Elliot behaves in this episode. I'm not sure if there was a switch of personalities. I don't think so, but there was a short moment where you actually kind of see that the moment Elliot decides to be a bit of a bastard, you know? Where he's standing at the door, he's about to leave because he thinks he's lost her, and you see him kind of moving, and then he turns back, and in like this very cold voice, he says, what happens if you fail your drug test, and then he tells about the drugs, and this continues throughout the entire episode. Like, his entire attitude, what he does is just bad. It's like some of the worst stuff we've seen Elliot do and say happens in this episode, and I sat there thinking, okay, I like you and I want to follow you, but this I can't justify this. Like, I actually felt bad about what was happening, and I didn't want to be with Elliot at that point, because I thought, okay, this is going too far. I know he has to take some risks and not do so many nice things, but like Mr. Robot says, they're crossing a line, and I thought, this is, even if it gets you somewhere, this was not a nice, not an appropriate, not a decent thing to do. And it gets even worse when he allows her to go to the toilet for a moment, and then he hears a noise, and he rushes into the bathroom, and we see her lying on the floor with a lot of blood, and it becomes apparent to us, okay, she's tried to kill herself. Like she said in her previous episode, the moment she realizes that she's about to take drugs again, she might as well kill herself. And that's what she tries. And, that was so heavy. So heavy seeing that. And him trying to, take care of her, and he does. He tries to save her and everything. But again, it continues that he's not really caring about her in that regard. They maybe have sort of a soft moment, but like she even says, he apologizes or something, and it's like, I'm sorry or something, and she says, I don't believe you. Like, I don't believe you're being sincere, and he kind of admits to it that he doesn't really mean it. And also, I literally screamed at my screen the moment Elliot said, I'm sorry. And I thought, Elliot, you basically drove a woman to suicide. Saying I'm sorry is not going to fix this. Like, what the hell, man? And yeah, he continues to be a bastard, and she sort of comes around to the idea of helping him, and even in that moment she just tried to kill herself. He stitched her up, and he gives her the phone so she does the calling, and there's always this little moment where he tries to be sort of sincere and kind and nice, but then you realize, is he actually being honest about this? Not really. And yeah, he manages to get the information on the Cyprus bank he needs, and he leaves her having just this cold expression on his face, like basically emotionless. And actually, it that reminds me of a moment that happens a little earlier when she calls him out on hurting her, and she asks him, how many people have you hurt getting here? And the camera just like zooms in on Elliot, and you see him not really changing his expression, but just like moving his eyes, and you see that he is thinking about this, but without showing any emotion, without changing his expression. And this is also what happens again towards the end, and where you keep thinking, is he actually not caring about this at all? Like, is he willing to hurt these people and being that bastard, saying, I don't care, I'll have to do this, and I don't care about how many people I hurt or what happens to them? Or that maybe, as he often does, just represses everything, even though it's eating at him on the inside? I don't know, but Elliot's entire character in this episode was rough. Like, it was really hard connecting with him in this and liking him as much as I usually do, which just goes to show this is good character writing. I don't always want to be the person who's like, yeah, Elliot, you go. Like, it's good that we have those moments where we're like, okay, yeah, not a good thing. That wasn't very nice. Okay, to sum it up, this was a very intense, a very interesting, a very, very good episode. I got so many goosebumps in so many scenes, and this, I just have to say it again, it's mostly also due to the fantastic acting from literally everyone involved in this show. Like, I know I praise Rami Malek and Christian Slater a lot, but also the other people. They're so good at playing these characters and invoking these emotions that you're just really going with what's happening on screen. And once again, this is just such a good example of great character writing, great story writing in general. And yeah, it's quite a heavy episode, but a very good one. Also, I'm appreciating that at the end, because they know they had an episode that addresses suicide, they put like the hotline there in case you need help. That's good. I like that they're doing that. It's very important. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. I hope that the Deus group meeting finally happens in next week's episode. We'll see what happens, since, you know, basically all our main characters are getting kidnapped by Vera and the Dark Army. So I guess we're seeing a lot of intense character interaction in next week's episode. But yeah, we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts on this week's episode? Put something down in the comments below. Once again, I appreciate everyone who watches these reviews and who comments. I love hearing your theories and your thoughts on this. Also, I re-uploaded my Mr. Robot video essay. I had some copyright issues, but now the American viewers should be able to watch it as well, so I'll leave a link up here so you can watch it. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done it already, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.